with the shrinkage of the federal government, we're seeing people left and right being laid off. Some people we know. What do you think is going to be the effect on the economy around us? I mean, we live in the DMV area, so obviously we're going to see the effects right away.
Yeah.
Whether it's people pull back from spending with certain with businesses, whether you see more houses go on the market, people sell their homes. What do you think? How do you think it's going to affect everything?
I mean, I think all the above, and not for a good part. Like, I think houses are going to get sold. I think local businesses are going to take a hit. You're not just talking about federal employees getting let go. You're also talking about contractors. These are multi-million-dollar contracts. So all this money flow in this area is going to dry up. So if all this money dries up, what are people going to do? That's the $1 million question. I don't know. I think it's really going to get rough out here, because there's not going to be enough private sector jobs for these people to pivot into. And then you also have people who've been in the government for so long. This is all they know. People who's been in 25 years are at a point where they can't retire. They're right there at retirement.
The person that's in the middle somewhere.
Somebody's right in the middle. Yeah. So they don't have the skill set to survive in the world, in the private sector, in this world that they're in now. And they're not close enough to retirement to retire. So what do they do?
Yeah.
Do they get a private sector job making a quarter of the money that they were making before? Now they can't live the lifestyle that they used to live. They have to sell their house. They have to sell their vehicles. Their kids might have to go. They might be in private schools. They can't go in private schools no more,
or move to another state where the cost of living might be,
or live with other family.
Yeah.
So I think overall, it's nothing that's good that's going to come out of this situation for the everyday citizen. It's going to.
So what do you think we're going to see as far as some folks may land on their feet, and then what about for the latter?
I think the latter majority
more gig work. People that trying to keep the bills paid,
but there's not going to be enough gig work to go around.
Yeah, so it's going to be more competitive.
It might be more competitive. It might drive
lower rate because people are going to be saying now it's a fight to the bottom.
Exactly. So I think it's going to drive the cost of gig work down. I think it's going to drive the salaries down too in the private sector. If you got 500 people lined up for a mid-management job, I don't have to pay them $150. I pay them $120. I pay them $110.
Because they're fighting over these jobs
they're
anyway.
Fighting over it.
Yeah.
People are going to take half the price for it. So I think it's going to drive salaries down too, which is going to cause even more problems. So overall, again, I think it's going to be nothing beneficial that comes out the situation. I think a lot of people who were well off are going to be in very bad positions. Yeah.
What about for maybe the folks that have only been maybe in the federal government maybe 1 to 2 years? Like they'll be able to easily pivot because they haven't been in there so long, where somebody that's been in there 20 years, they don't have any other skills possibly.
Yeah.
Where this other person, they can actually say, okay, I invested 2 years in it, but I may be able to change gears,
Yeah, I think they'll be a little better because, being in the government, I feel like you're in this dome, right? The safety dome of I've been here for so long.
Right.
You can kind of skate by and not get fired. You're guaranteed your increases for the most part. Like, you can get let go, but it takes a lot. You're guaranteed your increases every year to going outside this dome of safety where you have to really earn your check.
Yeah.
Being a contractor, if you do something wrong, that contract can get terminated and that's it.
Yeah.
So I think people who've been in the government for a short period of time, they're probably a little bit more accustomed to being outside that dome than these people who've been there 20 years, and they're more looking at retirement. But now that whole dome is blown up, now this bubble's burst.
Yeah.
They're going to be the people who really are going to be hurt because they've been getting these increases every year. So they might be making a good GS-15, making, $160,000, $170,000.
Right.
Now they got to find another job doing that. It's going to be rough.
You can't replace it right away.
You can't replace it right away. And again, the cost of those salaries are going to get pushed down, I think. So it's going to be very hard.
So it's like a real Hunger Games type.
Oh, yeah.
Event now.
Yeah, and then even on top of that, unemployment is not going to do much for them. If they're making 180 and say unemployment gives them $500 a week, that's 2 G's.
Yeah.
2 G's ain't going to cover their mortgage.
Right.
2 G's might not even cover their car note. It might just be enough for their car note insurance.
So now they got to pick between they're going to pay their car note, or they're going to put food on the table, or they're going to pay their mortgage or their rent.
It's a trickle effect. So now, say they had kids in college. Kid might have to drop out of college now. Car going to get repossessed. house gonna get repossessed. So it's gonna affect everybody, and that's what I don't think people are seeing. That it's just not one person losing their job.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's 100,000 people losing their jobs in
thing.
one area.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you live in Detroit and the car manufacturer closed. What does that do to Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
Destroys the economy.
And they still haven't recovered.
And they still haven't recovered. So I think that's what's going to happen in the DMV, where it's just going to destroy the economy for a long time. And people are going to disperse and move to different areas where they can find jobs, or worst scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing about it. It's like, you know, anyone can lose their job. You know, hopefully everybody understands that at this point, nobody's safe. And you can lose your job at any moment. And so those things are the things that happen to everybody if they were to lose their job. Private sector jobs, they've been laying off a lot of people, especially in the tech field. Yeah. You know, the past couple of years, they've been laying off a ton of people. So, you know, me being in the private sector, that's something I've been thinking about. Like, okay, I'm in tech, I'm in private sector. I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to what's going on, AI, you know, all this stuff. And the biggest thing about it is just the amount of people. It's like people losing their jobs, that happens every day, but thousands of people losing their jobs
at one time,
you know, at the same time, that's the part where chaos comes in, because now that's 1,000 people. That means that's 1,000 households that have lost their jobs. Now that's 1,000 households can't afford 1,000 homes and 1,000 mortgages. Like, that's when the stuff starts compounding and compounding and compounding and compounding. So that's the most, you know, nerve-wracking part of it, because yeah, like you said, if people are making 100, you know, there's not a 1-for-1 job. It's not just jobs waiting in the private sector that are $100,000 jobs. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't exist. You know?
And the federal government feeds these private sector jobs,
and that's another thing.
Indirectly,
that's another thing. Yeah, you got contractors. You have contracts based off of government funding.
Exactly.
Everything is interconnected in this country so much to the government that I think a lot of people are going to start seeing like, oh wait, that comes from there and that touches me this way. You know, I mean, and then that doesn't even count, you know, people's services. We don't even talk about that part. You know, we just talking about people's, you know, individual impact. We're not talking about when you call that Medicaid line and they lost 1,000 people and that phone's not getting answered. You know,
perfect example. The whole USAID, I think.
Yeah.
The farms that they were purchasing the food from are no longer get that funding.
Yep.
So they will buy food from these farms to send to other countries to provide aid. But now that they stopped this, these local farms or these farms that they were purchasing from, that's a lost income. Now they're hurting. They're like, oh my God, we don't, our food is going bad because we grew all this food off the assumption that they were going to buy it. So now we don't have income. We lost all this money that we put into the material.
Right.
It's a trickle down effect. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg. We're only 4 weeks into it.
Yeah.
And it's already starting to become a little mayhem.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part. Like, that's what I was saying. Is like, people aren't going to see exactly how everything was connected. You know, they look at it a certain way. America's giving all this stuff to other countries. It's like, but we're doing that through our country. You know what I'm saying? We're using people here to send there to help them, but to help ourselves as well. So, you know, it's extremely unfortunate. You know, everybody, you know, it is, you know, not to get too political, but you know, we'll see where it goes. You know, we'll see. You know, hopefully all these positive things that are supposed to come out of this will come out of this, but I don't see that.
So if we say, let's say worst case scenario, you know, things are just continue to go negatively the way it's been going, where people are losing jobs and having to sell their homes or whatever, you know, kids having to go to maybe a community college instead of where they're at now.
Maybe no college.
Or maybe no college. What do you guys think if you had, let's say, you know, God forbid, you was in someone's shoes that went like that, what would be, do you have a B plan where it's like, hey, this my primary way of making money, you know, whether I have some type of contract set with the government or I'm right there in the federal government, what would be your plan B right now?
The thing is, it's like the board is so messed up right now. You know, the typical avenues that you can take, like, oh, okay, I got fired from my federal job. I go to contracting.
Yeah.
I find a private job. But the thing
everybody's
everybody's flooding these areas. It's like I said, the playing field is so messed up right now that I don't know if there's going to be a plan B or C. I think it's going to turn to Gotham City, unfortunately. Yeah, because like I said, if the trickle down effect is taking place where everything is getting screwed up, the college is getting screwed up, this getting screwed up, that getting screwed up. So where do you work? If you have a large amount of people that's not working, what happens? So I don't know if there is a plan B or C right now, or start a business. No, there's nobody who has money to spend money.
Right?
So
Yeah.
start a
No,
business for
I
what?
think that's a common thing you hear people say. You just need to start your own business, and as somebody that is a business owner and been a business owner full time, going on 12 years now. I'm not the type of person that's going to be everybody needs to start a business. I dislike that. I don't like that at all, because that's not it's not a one size fits all, and everybody is not wired to run a business. And everybody, like you said, for that person that may have been in the federal government for 25 years, you're trying to teach an old dog new tricks. And also, too, to start a business, you have to have money to start a business.
And you have to know a trade.
And you have to know a trade. But you're talking about somebody just losing their job in the federal government, and you're telling them now to start a business. And you're telling them, well, it only takes how much. It depends on what type of business they want to start. But there's still a lot of funding that has to go into a business if you want it to bring in good money. And just because you start a business doesn't mean it's going to be enough to replace even half your income that first year. It takes time. And I think that a lot of, I got a little bone to pick with some of the influencers out here that just tell people to do that. And this is from somebody that's been a business owner for over 12 years. It takes years to get your income up to where you want it to get. If you're making $200,000 a year in the federal government, it doesn't mean overnight you're going to make $200,000 in your business. You'll get there at some point. I've gotten to my milestone, but it took years. It took years to get to that milestone and to keep it there and to say, okay, now I need to increase it. It doesn't happen overnight. But I don't care what kind of business it is. If it's one of those slapstick businesses where you just slapping it together and it's not built to last.
But the major thing too is if there's nobody around to spend money.
And that too.
Yeah.
Business
you need the customers. You need people to spend money. And now you say you want to go after federal contracts in your business. That's going to be tougher now too.
So even if you become an electrician or a plumber, like, yes, everybody always needs electricians and plumbers, but now it's like the market's drying up. If I got 1,000 electricians and people not really looking to do electrical work, the contracts are dead. No, we're not building no buildings, so we don't need electricians. You might be able to do some residential fixings and stuff here and there, but again, if nobody has the money to spend,
but you'll also have more people that try to get by without certain things. Like if they lose their job and they're saying, okay, I need to just take care of my mortgage and things like that, they may not have the extra funds to take care of maybe repairs they've been putting off in their house. Maybe they can live without that repair. They're gonna say, as long as my overhead lights work and all that, they say right now. Maybe I don't got the money to fix those. The basement, the electricity in the basement it needs some work. I don't have time because I don't really go down there that much anyway. They're gonna find so many things in that house to put off. That one bathroom where they need some plumbing work. They're gonna say, well, we got 3 bathrooms. That bathroom can wait.
Exactly.
We got 2 other working bathtubs. So people are gonna also go without. They're gonna say, I can put that project off for now. So then that affects those industries too. If you're an electrician or a plumber and things like that, and then you will have some people that maybe were in the federal government that also used to be a plumber, a licensed plumber. They'll say, well, I'll just go out there and I'll be a freelance plumber. But now you'll have multiple people trying. There's more competition now. So like I said, it's going to affect every aspect of it, Now, maybe if you're in real estate, it might be different. It might be more business for you.
Might be.
But
then people probably selling houses for less than they were.
Exactly.
Smaller commission.
Smaller
commission, exactly.
And you got to remember, a lot of people just bought these houses for over asking price. So now you're going to take a loss. $50,000, $100,000 loss because you spent more than the house was actually worth.
And it's worth now.
Right.
Market's drop going back down.
I mean, I think I've seen it said something about DC market. They've seen, housing prices down like 5-10% or something like that already. So
I saw an article about that as well.
That's
and for DC, that's you're like,
that's
what?
Major. Yeah.
Cheap house getting cheaper in DC.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's a bad sign.
So then that's going to spill out into your counties as well, your suburbs as well. Because a lot of these folks, all these folks don't live in the city. A lot of them live out. Montgomery County, PG County,
Virginia?
Charles County, Virginia, Northern Virginia, all of that. So it's going to, like I said, it's going to have a trickle.
And then the big problem too is all these people who were paying taxes, no longer are paying taxes.
Yeah.
So that means no longer county people are getting their funds to fix roads and do all these things, or grants and funding to help people. So it's a trickle down effect that
Yeah.
it's going to impact everybody, and we're only 4 weeks into it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, shoot, I know somebody who was trying to get their CDL, and they were like in a program that gets paid for. You know, you get a free CDL based, through your county or whatever.
Hmm.
It's gone now. Federal funding's gone for it. That's how it was getting paid. So there's lots of little things that we don't even know how this is going to affect people. Where it's like, oh wait, the money came from there. Oh wait, that was a government job. And it's going to be, unfortunate.
Yeah, even I'm wondering, even if in my field in multimedia production, the same thing. Some of the folks that I know that specialize in,
there's
you
gonna
know,
be some
government
people undercutting your
contracts.
price.
There's
gonna be some people with their cameras like,
Oh, I know.
This is my chance to be a videographer,
Content creator,
and now,
yeah.
and now your them prices gonna be. Well, I don't need. They don't have they're trying to get in.
Large crew,
They're trying to get in, get their foot in the door, so then they start.
They're willing to work harder for less.
Yeah, their prices start getting lower because I've been doing photography for this many years as my hobby, so now I'll give it a chance to be a professional. And they come in and they disrupt your
Right.
Do it for a 6-pack.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, that's when your expertise and your skill and all that you've built over time, outweighs the price. But
yeah, you got to still show that client value.
Yeah, they got to
value and still going with you versus going with the guy that has been doing it for a couple of months and all of that. So,
I mean, send that question over to you, Jay. What Joe says, if people in this scenario, what do you think they should do?
I mean, I think the number one thing you're going to have to do is be willing to move. Like, there may not be the jobs here. You might have to find, jobs in different places, and you're going to have to be willing to move. And I don't know, the federal people think that most of the federal government workers work in DC area. They don't. I think I heard 20% maybe.
A lot of them moved on COVID.
Yeah, 25% of the government workforce maybe in the area.
Yeah.
So this is going to hit everybody. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
it's going to hit every state and every major
every
city.
market. Yeah.
So it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. I don't know. Do the best you can.
I think I don't know.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody can really counter anything right now. So they wait till all of the dust.
It's new.
Yeah, you got to wait till all the dust settles from all of this to really see what can people do next.
And then my other question would be, right? This try not to be too political. This crew is only 4 years, so
hopefully,
not getting too political. They're only here for 4 years, so. In 4 years, if the other regime gets put in, do they start hiring people back? I don't know. So,
right, you don't know because you don't know who's going to be in office.
Exactly, you don't know nothing.
What their
But my assumption would be once they reduce it, they're not going to just hire a bunch of people back. They're just not going to do that. But then, like I was saying, services and how will that? It's very early. I think everyone needs to. I think if you work for the federal government, you need to be preparing the best you can, looking for jobs, seeing what's out there, seeing what your field is, learning how to do some of these other things. Because like you said, there's a lot of old people or older people who've done one thing, one job, one Department of Energy, one thing, one scope of thing for 20 years. And now, you're going to have to compete with everybody.
I mean, even if you, for the time being, until you can figure out your main next bread and butter job is, even if you got to go pick up 2 retail jobs, to say, because my whole concept I feel like
that's like understood, right? You got to go make money, so you might have to work at the grocery store.
Right. My whole concept is being, even back when we had COVID, and I didn't know what was going to happen if my business was going to be put on pause. I said, well, my main job right now is to take care of these 4 walls. Right. What I mean by that is, I said, thank God I didn't have to put off any other like bills or anything like that. But I said, if I had to, I need to at least make sure that this mortgage is paid and there's food in the fridge for this family and stuff. So it's like, even if you got to go get a 2-3 retail job, yes, it's not convenient. It's not, you got to humble yourself. But if you're like, hey, but I need this in order to at least maintain for now until I can figure out what my next move is. Right. Until that time, I can at least rest assured that, hey, my 4 walls is taken care of.
Facts. I mean, and that's that's why I'm saying, like, I assume that's advice is baked in.
Yeah.
You might
Oh,
got to
yeah.
you might got to Uber, you might got to DoorDash, you might got to Amazon Flex, you might
Yeah.
got to do all these.
This is
you
not the
know.
time to flex.
Yeah, well,
It's not
Amazon
the
Flex,
time.
maybe,
I know, but yeah, Amazon flexing. But other than that, ain't no time for folks to be
you gotta
flexing.
get it. You gotta get it how you can get it. So
Extravagant vacations, all that
Yeah, all
stuff.
that's
You
dead.
gotta,
It's out.
that stuff is out.
nice
You know,
restaurants, all that stuff
Yeah.
is gone. You might gotta sell your car and downsize. You might got, these
Yeah,
are the
do
things
what
you're
you
just
gotta
gonna, that's just life. If you were to lose your job on your own, you might have to do that.
That
But with a lot of people losing their jobs and probably in similar fields as your competition is going to just be higher.
Oh, yeah.
The vacancies are going to be less in the private sector. So
Yeah.
get that skill set up.
yeah,
Mhm.
do the best you can. Hold on and hopefully you got something saved up. So it's not going to be too dramatic. But I know a lot of people in America, they check the check.
Yep.
So losing that job, I mean, that just puts you in poverty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you know.
they're literally like thinking about their next. How am I going to pay for my next batch of groceries? And
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's no judgment on anybody,
never. That.
but that's how it is for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Whether they're in the government, somebody that's making $250,000 a year, you'd be surprised. You thinking, oh, they just got cash in the bank.
Well, here goes a perfect
They
example.
may not.
You remember the furlough a couple years ago, right? Or
Yeah.
a little longer than a couple years ago when
2018, I
I
think.
think it lasted 6
2019.
weeks.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And even at that point, you see what happens.
Yeah,
6
people
weeks
at-
is no pay.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
at food banks.
Yeah,
6
people at
weeks.
food banks. 6 weeks already had folks at the food bank, so that's right there showed you.
A small
It's not
indication.
about how. It's not always necessarily about how much money you make. It's how much you're able to keep,
Yeah.
but also to your spending habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of times, naturally, when we start making more, we tend to spend more
Yeah.
because we don't think that it'll ever stop, and we're like, okay, well, now I make more, I should have a better car. Now I make more, I should upgrade my
Gotta have
house.
Something to show for.
Now, exactly, something to show for it. Okay, you know what? I was thinking about getting that swimming pool. Let me throw the swimming pool in the backyard and things like that. And then when the rug is pulled from out under you with stuff like what's going on with the government downsizing, you're like, oh, well, I still have these bills to pay for this new acquired wealth. It's the same thing that happens with entertainers and celebrities. That's why people always think, well, that person they're worth $20 million. How can they go broke? Because they're living a $20 million lifestyle.
Yeah.
They're not living on $2 million and they got $20 million $18 million in the bank.
Yeah.
They're living on a $20 million lifestyle. So their cable bill alone is probably $1,500. Their electric bill is probably $3,000
for them and the people they're taking care of.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they're not living with it. They're not thinking like, oh, I got 20 million, I'm comfortable. They're probably just as more stressed than you are because they're like, yeah, I have 20 million, but I got 20 million worth of bills.
But not to get too much in politics. Like the thing is too, is what makes this situation worse is no shame on the federal employee. Like the employees itself did nothing wrong, which makes
Right.
this whole situation
Facts.
terrible.
Right. So they did.
Absolutely
Facts.
terrible because they're doing their job. They're serving the public. They're doing what they're told to do. And for somebody to pull their rug under them after they've done their due diligence, their job for the past 25 years, and somebody says, start over again.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially for no rhyme or
For
reason.
no rhyme or
Yeah.
reason, somebody pulling the plug on them.
Yeah, that's
It
crazy.
is
Yeah.
the crazy part of this whole situation.
It's one thing if it's like, hey, we don't have the money anymore to pay people because
Yeah.
we're in debt as a company, so we have to lay people off,
Yeah.
and we're gonna give you your
Pack.
package, and we
and
send
all
you on
that.
your way.
Mhm.
So another just be like, all right, goodbye,
Exactly.
nothing for you. We
Start
don't got
over.
No package. Yeah, it's like, oh, you started this
Nah, I
job
feel
6
like
months ago.
you
Yeah.
at least-
It's like you playing Monopoly, you going around the whole board, and you almost there, and then somebody says start over. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mm.
No
you know,
200. Do
nothing.
not collect $200.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Take your ass
So
to jail.
and
Take your
it,
ass
it,
to jail.
it probably gets in people's psyche as far as like,
Yeah. Of course.
did I do something wrong? Even though we were all let go, and it's like they didn't even like give us a parachute,
Mm-hmm.
a severance package, a
Yeah.
parachute.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a soft landing. It's
Right.
just kind of like you're out on your own
Mm-hmm.
with
Wasn't-
nothing. We didn't do anything wrong.
Wasn't based
Wrong.
on a performance review.
Not at
It
all.
wasn't anything. It was just
and people they would start getting in their own head, even though they know it wasn't their fault. They still because you're dealing with the aftermath of losing employment,
Yeah.
and
I think a lot of people, and you'll hear this sometime from a lot of political types, is people gain like personal satisfaction from employment,
Mhm.
and I think that's something. Me personally, handicapped was Josh. I think that's something that we as people need to get away from. Your job is your job,
Mm.
and that's not a reflection of you personally.
it shouldn't be part. It shouldn't be baked in
It
as a
shouldn't
part of
be
your
baked in
identity.
as a part of your identity.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, as men, being a provider is a part of our identity. So your job is the thing that helps you provide.
Mm-hmm.
So losing that could really hurt you. But in this particular instance, when it has nothing to do with you, you weren't showing up to work late. You didn't show up drunk. You didn't you didn't do anything to. That's the part where you got to kind of let it go.
Yeah.
And let that be that. Let that circus be what that circus is, and work on yourself and just try to provide for your people, because don't take it internally. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. I hope a lot of people don't take it as an internal thing, even though it's hard not to.
Yeah, because like you said, some people just spent most of their time working.
Yeah, you spend more time at work than you do at home.
Right. And some of them also, too, were passionate about whatever position it was. It wasn't just like, I'm making money. I'm very passionate about this cause. So now when this cause has been taken away from me and my paycheck, and that's what they've been working 60 hours a week. They're barely at home.
Right.
They are going to go through a mental battle for a while, because now that's part of my identity, and now I have to shift that and say, no, my identity is more. And I'm glad you talked about that, because that might be a good reason why, this might be a good another topic spilling it, but this might be a great reason why people should never even put their professional, whether it's a business or anything, should allow that to dominate their identity.
Right.
Because those things change over time. Those things go through challenges. And if you have your identity totally anchored to your profession, you're going to let yourself down at times. Because your professional career, your business or whatever, is never going to be perfect like you want it to be. There's going to be things you got to work on, or you may suffer losses. You may, I'll give you an example. When COVID came around, 4 years, how many years ago now? 5?
Something like that.
I'm just used to ripping and running, just working all the time. So I can say part of my identity at the time was probably baked in, as far as me as a business owner, me as a profession. Yes, I'm a husband, I'm a father too, but you have to straddle that rope very delicately, because even maybe for the first week or two, where we didn't know what was going to happen as far as like my industry being considered essential or not, you're sitting at home, sitting around, you start to get in your own head, and it's like, hold on, the reason why I started this business was to be able to provide for the folks around me. It's not for an ego trip, so I had to like rebuild myself in my head and realize there's a reason why we do all this. There's a reason, why money is a tool at the end of the day. That's all it should be. When we get on, other podcasts, other content, folks are kind of like trying to teach people like, everybody needs to be making at least 200,000 a year. What happens is that could get dangerous right there, because now you'll have people that just, they'll disregard everything else in life and feel like, as long as I'm rich and wealthy, I'm successful in life.
Right.
But then, you're a terrible person. And what happens is that if that money dries up, what do you have to fall back on?
Right.
You didn't work on any spiritual aspect of your life, no family aspect of your life, no just individual aspect of your life at all. It's just been all about the money. And I think that's something as a society we gotta step back and look at that and say, it's important. We all want to be wealthy and things like that, but we don't want it to take over our identity as far as who we are, because those things come and go. Those things come and go, and you want to always say, what is, I'm making money, but hey, I got my family, I got my friends, I got this going for that too. So that way, if that takes a hit, you're okay. You're okay.
And that's something I've noticed too. Is like, the company I work for is a major company. So when I tell people who I work for, you'll see their eyes like, oh, wow, oh. And it's like, but I was there for a few years as a contractor, not making nothing. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, oh my goodness, wow, yeah, you work there, okay. And it's like, but that didn't define me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't let that type of
let it define.
Compare if you say I worked at McDonald's, like, oh,
right. Oh, okay, all right,
exactly.
And it's like, at the end of the day, like Joe said, is I'm working to provide. I'm not working to
get validation from
any type of status or make another. I am helping make other people richer, but that's not my goal. Isn't to use that as like as a personal thing, because it can be taken away from you at any moment. And what do you have after that? You got to rely on yourself.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And that's what we're unfortunately seeing with the government. People are losing jobs, and you just hope and pray that they're able to weather that part and
right.
get through that mental battle right there, as far as like, oh dang, I was tied into all my work the whole time,
Right. And I think being from the DMV area, we're gonna feel it a little more, at least in terms of we're looking at the news like, wow, because we know so many government employees. We were told when we were younger, get a government job. It's a good job. They pay you well. It's stable. You're good. So that was a lot of our advice growing up in this area. Is like, go get one of those. And so we know the impact that it can have on so many people that we know. So we're going to definitely we're going to hear that news, and it's not going to sound the same to us as it would to somebody maybe in West Virginia where they don't know nobody that work for the government. Out there it might be like
very few.
Good. Those rich people losing their jobs, they should. They don't do nothing anyway.
And that's the thing. They just assume that those were rich people. I'm like, it's expensive to live in the DMV, so it's relative. You can't say, well, West Virginia or somewhere, not just West Virginia. We're not picking on West Virginia, but somewhere where it might be cheaper to live, and they've taken $280. Yeah, that's stretched further there, but that same money here doesn't stretch as far.
I think we should also be learning from, like, over the years, like Jay was saying about those jobs that everybody's telling us when we were younger. Go get that job; it's stable. All those jobs are disappearing. That used to be the post office. You work at the post office, make good money. It used to be Metro. Metro, pay you well. You can work there 20, 30 years and retire. Used to be the federal
path
government.
was linear. Yeah, the path was linear.
So I think that whole stable job, stay for 30 years, is totally dead. You need to be able to adapt on the fly, get skill sets that you can take to any type of company and flourish. I think that's the overall lesson that we're learning over the past 5-10 years.
And that doesn't even count AI. We don't even know what AI about to do the jobs. We don't know what that's going to do.